demanding to get in. They are waving their country's flags, demanding the U.S. let them in.
Is it legal for these people to knock on the door? Absolutely. This is what the president doesn't like, but this is the law.
Shocking revelations out of Israel.
This regime, the preeminent terrorist regime of our time, had a secret nuclear weapons program, and they're trying, under a very bad deal, to get a nuclear arsenal.
It's been 1 year since Kathy Griffin beheaded President Trump, and apparently she isn't sorry anymore.
By the way, I take the apology back. I'm not holding back on this family. This president is different.
See, I wouldn't change a single word that I said. I'm very happy with what I said.
I think this is about the White House Correspondents Association and why they thought Michelle Wolf would be a good person to have at the event, knowing her history.
But then also with the big hit comes people that aren't so happy as well. If you say that you're a supporter of Donald Trump or...
Oh, yeah, people are mad about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't give a
Good one.
It is a beautiful,
I forgot about that. I got to download that.
beautiful sky this morning live from New York City, the first day of May. It is going to be really warm today, and we're going to get into the 80s, approaching 90 degrees in the next couple of days. A heat wave.
Lunch outside, dinner outside. The beautiful part about New York City is we have all these restaurants that they put these tables outside on the street, and you can people watch, and you can maybe have a little rosé.
I just had a piece of fried chicken out of the streets. It was delicious.
You're eating your lunch.
I know it.
Hey, I tell you, if you're watching, let's say, in the afternoon, you saw an incredible, impactful display by somebody that was as comfortable in front of the camera and on stage as Regis Philbin in his prime. And I'm talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, at which time he unveiled detailed reports about how extensive Iran's nuclear program was before this deal was done. And fundamentally, with the takeaway, there's a lot of takeaway, but fundamentally it shows that this whole deal was done on a false premise. It was a premise in which Iran told us, we have a nuclear program, but it's not for a nuclear bomb. And then we talked, and it turns out they had a nuclear program, and it was for a nuclear bomb, and it was bigger, larger, and more extensive than anyone thought.
So what happened was the Israelis were able to get their hands on 110,000 files. And what they did was essentially show, and it's taken them, according to the Prime Minister, a couple of months for them to translate them. And they've discovered they were working on a nuke. But it was a long time ago. However, nonetheless, Mr. Netanyahu clearly made this presentation live on television yesterday to influence the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who has said by May the 12th he will decide whether or not to stay with the deal. Here's the Prime Minister talking about the important decision our President has to make.
This regime, the preeminent terrorist regime of our time, in which, its goons chant death to America, death to Israel. This regime had a secret nuclear weapons program, and they're trying, under a very bad deal, to get a nuclear arsenal. And they hate America. They hate America's guts. So I think if that's what they're doing without nuclear weapons, think of what will happen when they get an arsenal of nuclear weapons if this deal just goes through as is. So I'm very glad, I have to tell you, that President Trump has stood so firmly and so clearly on this issue.
If you're wondering, are these documents real that Israel obtained from Tehran? Well, our government, our intelligence officials are saying, yes, they are real. They are confirming what Benjamin Netanyahu is saying. The Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said, for many years, the Iranian regime has insisted to the world that its nuclear program was peaceful. The documents obtained by Israel from inside of Iran show beyond any doubt that the Iranian regime was not telling the truth.
So Rob Malley, a former senior negotiator for Barack Obama, says there's nothing new in this presentation. All it does is vindicate the need for the nuclear deal. He says this is for an audience of one, and that's for Donald Trump. I think there is something new in this negotiation. They never acknowledged they had a bomb before. That is, they had a bomb program before, even though it was assumed.
Yeah, and so they found this archive, and Bibi Netanyahu said, well, why were they hanging on to it if they didn't have that sort of problem? What is perplexing, though, is the fact that here we are a year or two into this deal, a couple of years into the deal, and according to Mike Pompeo and weapons inspectors, at this point, Iran has been complying with the deal. But the Prime Minister himself said, look, it was a bad deal.
Yeah. Well, and
Nixon
also
fixed it, he said.
in other news, too, we talked a lot yesterday about the White House Correspondents' Dinner over the weekend. Michelle Wolf, that comedian, you might be tired of talking about it, but there is some new news this morning. She has now doubled down on what she said. Listen, this was her in an interview on NPR.
I wouldn't change a single word that I said. I'm very happy with what I said, and I'm glad I stuck to my guns.
And you know what? She has a talk show coming out on Netflix. I'm sure they're thrilled. She went from an obscure reporter on The Daily Show. Now everyone knows, so I think it's going to be a win for her. But I don't think she won over anybody else that wasn't going to watch The Daily Show.
She stuck to her guns like it was something that important. She's a comedian.
Because she wanted to attack, not entertain.
In the rubble, they're trying to figure out what exactly to do with the White House Correspondents Association dinner. The Washington Post said, you know, pull the plug on it. It's not working. The incoming president, a fellow by the name of Oliver Knox, says they are weighing format changes. We don't know exactly what that means. Maybe they'll do away with the entertainment, such as it is. He said the dinner should be boring. It should focus on journalists and the work of good reporters. But obviously it has strayed so far. Molly Hemingway, a fine journalist, said this about all of that.
I don't think people really knew who she was before, and now she's much more of a common name. And it really isn't about whether she should apologize. This is who she is. I think this is about the White House Correspondents Association and why they thought Michelle Wolf would be a good person to have at the event. Going after conservatives and Republicans hard and personally and lightly jabbing their own people, the media and Democrats, is just what the Correspondents' Dinner has been known for. It was a very honest dinner about the state of D.C. right now.
But you made a good point, Brian. You said she's there to attack. By saying, I'm going to stick to my guns, she's an activist. She's not a comedian.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what Rob Schneider said about Alec Baldwin's impersonation of Donald Trump. They used to call it playfulness to what Dana Carvey did for George Bush 41. There's no playfulness. There's just an attack and anger where people don't laugh. They clap or they ooh and they ah. That's what's different about it. However, if your way of restructuring the White House Correspondents' Dinner is, hey, come one, come all, it's boring, I think you got to go to a plan B.
I just saw my son in that picture.
Right.
I had no idea he was there that night. By the way, Jim Acosta blames Donald Trump for the dinner. He tweeted out, my problem with last night's dinner is not that we had a comedian who told some really nasty jokes. It's that we did not really address the nearly constant attacks on the press from the president. The dinner should change with the times so we send a strong message to the world. So he's blaming Donald Trump.
Brian, you said in the first hour, you said Roseanne Barr. What did she say about what are some of the rules of comedy?
Number one, let me see. Roseanne Barr says this. First of all, never target someone more famous than you in the audience. You will lose the entire crowd. Second rule, comedy comes from love, not from hate. If you feel hate, you don't get laughs. And that's what people felt, uncomfortable and a hate. Even for people that didn't vote for President Trump, you see a nice person there as a press secretary or somebody there who is a liaison with the White House, and you thought a campaign manager, and you're targeting them. I hope a tree falls in the woods. I hope it crushes you. Fantastic. Let's get a round of applause.
At least get stuck. Meanwhile, somebody else who has been in the press a lot for taking shots at the president is Kathy Griffin. Remember, she held that decapitated Donald Trump mask covered with ketchup, and then she wound up severing ties. CNN, all those other outfits cut ties with her. She did apologize, but now, as we have learned from The View, she takes it back.
I can't believe it's been a year since this. It's a year this month that that picture was released.
Right.
And we already described...
What a year it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I take the apology back.
Why, because her career's thriving again or something? I mean...
I did talk to her for a while.
What'd she say?
You know, remember, Steve, she used to come on.
All the time?
Yeah, she used to come on all the time. And
what'd she say?
You talked to her a while after that?
Yeah, and she said I talked to her before that comment. I talked to her at the Correspondents' Dinner, and she said she's coming back with a brand new Attack Trump program. There was no contrition. She's going to talk about how the FBI, you know, everyone came to her house because it was a threat on the president and what she went through. She says
so she's going to do the Stephen Colbert show.
So she was sorry until she got a gig. And now that she's working again, she's not sorry.
Yeah, she has a revelation that she shouldn't have said she's sorry.
Well, the reason she, apparently on The View, she said the reason she said she was sorry was because she thought of Daniel Pearl's mother. You know, Daniel Pearl was decapitated by the bad guys over there. She said, I was thinking about the mother, so I said, I apologize, but now she takes it all back.
I will say this. Michelle Wolf deleted thousands of her tweets, some of which are abhorrent and not even attempted to be funny, like Serena Williams is a man and she talks about racists and talks about some horrible things, but they're magically deleted. I don't know if it's going to address her Netflix deal or not.
Anyway, that's what's going on in the world of entertainment and politics, and now some news with Jillian.
That's right. Good Tuesday morning to you guys, to you at home as well. Let's start on this Fox News alert. At least one person is dead after a 26-story tower comes crumbling down in a ball of flames. Look at that video. People were trapped inside and heard screaming for help. The fire ripping through the building in Brazil. A witness says it started on the 4th floor of the former police headquarters. The building was abandoned but occupied by squatters. Also breaking right now, a U.S. service member is killed and another is wounded during a combat operation in eastern Afghanistan. Officials say several Afghani soldiers were also killed while Allied forces fought the Khorasan group, an ISIS affiliate. It's unclear how they died. Yesterday, ISIS claimed responsibility for a twin bombing that killed at least 25 people in Kabul. We now know what special counsel Robert Mueller wants to ask President Trump in the Russia probe. New York Times obtaining a list of almost 4 dozen questions ranging from the president's motivations for firing FBI Director James Comey to contacts the Trump campaign had with Russians. Judge Andrew Napolitano joined us earlier to react.
It tells me they already know the answers to many of those questions. They can document the answers, and they want to see if the president will tell the truth.
Just moments ago, the president responding, tweeting, quote, so disgraceful that the questions concerning the Russian witch hunt were leaked to the media. No questions on collusion. Oh, I see. You have a made-up phony crime collusion that never existed and an investigation begun with illegally leaked classified information. Nice. Former President George H.W. Bush is gaining strength in the hospital. The 93-year-old was admitted for a blood infection last week, a day after wife Barbara's funeral. A family spokesperson says, quote, 41 is in great spirits and is looking forward to going home soon. The former president wants to spend the summer at the Bush compound in Kennebunkport, Maine, where a memorial for Barbara is growing. Isn't that picture nice?
Very nice. And best to all of them. Good to hear he's on the mend.
Yeah, thanks, Jillian.
All right.
All right, 12 minutes now after the hour. The first wave of immigrants from that caravan now applying for asylum. Hope they have a number 2 pencil. But what about the thousands of others still trying to get in? We're going to ask a Border Patrol agent on the ground next.
And Roseanne is firing back at critics, blasting her for supporting President Trump.
Oh, yeah, people are mad about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't give a
What do you think about that? We are reading your emails.
It was redacted.
But give it to the people. Spread it across the country. Here we go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands.
Borders. We don't have borders. We don't have a country. And I've been watching for weeks as the caravan came up. We're doing the best we can with it. But we have to have changes in Congress, and we have to have it quickly.
There you have President Trump doubling down on the need for a border wall as the Department of Justice has charged 11 suspected caravan immigrants for illegally trying to enter the United States. Another 8 migrants are getting through the border crossing to apply for asylum there in California. Here to weigh in is the president of Local 1613 of the National Border Patrol Council, Terry Shigg. Terry, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so what's different this time is apparently at the direction of the president, the Department of Homeland Security and the Border Patrol, the people who slowly but surely get into the system to ask for asylum, rather than just having them fill out a form and then say, okay, come back in 3 months or whenever when your investigation is done, they're actually holding them there at the border. Why are they doing that?
Well, I'd like to give credit to the administration and to the Department of Homeland Security and CBP in general for setting up this type of program. what they've done is they've kind of been proactive and set it up with their liaisons there in Mexico so that they won't overwhelm the system, because there's only so many resources and there's only so many agents available to process the asylees or those applying. So what they've done is they say, okay, well, we know how many people there are. We'll basically give them a number, and we'll process them as many as we can per day, and we'll schedule them as we can, rather than allowing them to come all at once and overload the system.
Sure, but this is different. I'm sure that when they started this caravan, they figured, okay, we're going to get to the border, we're going to apply for asylum, we'll all get to do it together, as has been done in years past. But clearly this administration is trying to send a message. There's a new sheriff in town, and it's not going to be a cakewalk to get in anymore.
Yes, and that's one of the things that our agents on the ground appreciate, that they've done something that has said, okay, this is the way that it's going to be done, and dictated how this will apply, so that we could use our resources to the best that we have, the best ability that we can, and to make sure that those that don't comply with that will be prosecuted.
All right. Also, the 11 suspected members of the caravan who were arrested for trying to get into the country, now they're going to be criminally charged with the misdemeanor, but that's different too.
Yes, and that's another one of the proactive steps they took this time, to say that, okay, we're going to dictate how this is going to be done, as opposed to waiting and then reacting to whatever circumstance comes up. Because if you don't have a plan like this, then it takes away from the limited resources that we have. Because there is a way to do this at the ports of entry, as opposed to coming in between the ports of entry, as you saw the demonstrators and the protesters in my area there in San Diego. That's in the Border Patrol's area of operation, not the port of entry. And that takes our guys away from protecting the country.
All right. Terry, we thank you very much for joining us today to tell us what's going on behind the scenes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Meanwhile, President Trump standing up for Christians, calling on Nigeria's president to stop the killings in his country. Why is nobody talking about that? We will next.
I hold in my hands papers that have nothing to do with this. I just forgot to put them down. Student activists at San Diego State University will walk out today to pressure school administrators to declare their campus a sanctuary campus. Believe that? In a so-called May Day manifesto, the group also demands a $15 an hour wage for all campus employees, a fascist-free campus environment, and an end to tuition increases. What fantasy are these people in? I'll stop walking now. And illegal immigrants in that sanctuary state could soon hold office. Democratic State Senator Ricardo Lara proposing a bill into putting illegals on local board commissions in California. Wouldn't that be a natural evolution? He says it would allow the government to better serve its diverse communities. Talking about diversity, here's a very diverse Ainsley Earhart.
I try to be. Thank you very much, Brian. Well, President Trump standing up for Christians in a meeting with the Nigerian president.
We're deeply concerned by religious violence in Nigeria, including the burning of churches and the killing and persecution of Christians. We encourage Nigeria to do everything in their power to immediately secure the affected communities and to protect innocent civilians of all faiths.
The killings of Christians, Christian persecution, getting virtually no coverage on the mainstream media. And here to discuss this, co-hosts of the Christian Broadcasting Network's Faith Nation, David Brody and Jenna Browder. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks.
What is the story here? What's happening to Christians in Nigeria and other countries that are dangerous?
Yeah, it's horrible. 62%. That's the violence that's up in just 1 year in Nigeria. It's in the top 10 of Christian persecution worldwide. 215 million Christians overall persecuted around the country, or excuse me, around the world. And so what's happening in Nigeria, I mean, some of the stories are just horrible.
Oh, they're atrocious, Ainsley. I mean, babies being thrown against rocks, terrorists going through towns, slitting people's throats. The stories are just stunning.
Are Christian missionaries going into these areas?
They are, and they're doing quite a bit of it, whether it be Open Doors USA. I mean, Samaritan's Purse is obviously very important there. So you have all of that, and what's really interesting is the evangelical leaders that have kind of partnered, if you will, with these missionary groups. And so you have, whether it be, you know, the Tony Perkins and many others, a lot of these folks are going overseas and really having some personal meetings that are very important, that will really influence the dialogue, and it's all because of the close ties with the Trump administration.
What is our president doing?
Definitely. Well, we saw yesterday him take a strong stance and really effectively put the leader of Nigeria on notice, saying, hey, if you don't do something about this, we will. Also, a lot of just religious freedom things that he's doing in terms of signing that executive order, and that really set the tone for what this administration will stand for. Religious persecution, religious freedom is a top priority in this administration.
Yeah, you know, we probably wouldn't be talking about this today if the president weren't talking to the president of Nigeria yesterday in the Rose Garden. What have you noticed? You were telling me during the commercial break there are some Rasmussen polls that are pretty alarming about what Americans really care about.
Well, yeah, a couple things. And I know Jenna has some of those numbers, but I can tell you this real quick. On the media, I was watching, or excuse me, I was looking at the New York Times website, the Washington Post website. This was not mentioned at all. I mean, think about it for a second. I mean, President Trump called out, in essence, the Nigerian leader right there in the Rose Garden, and nothing in the New York Times or the Washington Post, and yet it's just fascinating to see this, and yet we have this huge moral dilemma and problem in our country.
All right, Jenna, tell me about the polls.
Yeah, this poll out by Rasmussen, it shows that Democrats care more about Muslims who are mistreated here in the United States than Christians who are mistreated in Islamic countries. And of course, we know more journalists are Democrats than Republicans, so it's really no wonder that there's such a lack of reporting on an issue like this.
I think we should care about both issues. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
VA hospitals are under fire yet again. Photos of a dirty room where a veteran was sent for treatment going viral. That outraged veteran is going to join us live. Plus, Todd Pyra's having breakfast with friends in West Virginia ahead of the big election there. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Ainsley, good morning to you. A lot of people are saying that this Senate seat, the Joe Manchin seat, could switch from Democrat to Republican. I'm going to talk to a young lady here who herself switched from Democrat to Republican. And what's even better than that, she's playing hurt today. She's a gamer. More Fox and Friends right after this.
He talked about jobs, Jackie. He said he'd shake things up. I mean, this might come as a complete shock to you, but we almost lost our house the way things are going.
Have you looked at the news? Because now things are worse.
Not on the real news.
Oh, please!
That was the premiere episode of Roseanne during this relaunch, which, as she pointed out last night on the Tonight Show, not 20 million viewers, Jimmy. It had 27 million viewers.
Yeah, she was on last night with Jimmy Fallon, and, you know, of course he asks her, they had some funny exchanges, and then he asks her, you know, you support the president, and a lot of people don't like that about you. This was her response.
With a big hit comes people that aren't so happy as well. If you say that you're a supporter of Donald Trump or...
Oh, yeah, people are mad about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't give a Everybody had to choose for themselves, according to their own conscience, who they thought was the lesser of two evils. So I'm not going to put anybody down who didn't vote like me. This is America. It's a free country. And, you know, when you weigh it all together, I just felt like we needed a whole new thing all the way, bottom to top.
And he talked about how he appreciated when the president called her. She revealed a couple earlier that she said to Mr. President, thank you for moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Everyone's talked about it, and you finally did it. Another thing to keep in mind, she's talking to somebody in Jimmy Fallon who did this thing called traditional late night, where he had fun with both sides, and he actually did a funny thing with President Trump and then had to apologize for so-called normalizing him. So he's looking at her saying, where do you get that courage from, essentially?
Also, they were talking about why has this show been a runaway hit, and she said, you know, I think people just missed the family. They missed her approach. In fact, we were talking about she's got such a simple delivery, deadpan, but there's just something very endearing about it.
Yeah, there really is. She said the lesser of two evils. You know, if you talk to people, it's not, we weren't electing a pastor. We were electing a president, and they both had Hillary Clinton and President Trump. There were things that, imperfections on both sides, and Americans got to go to the polls and choose. Doesn't mean you have to hate someone because they didn't vote the same way you did.
All right,
you can have dialogue.
Yeah, so we asked you about this, and Roseanne Stantz, and she said, Melissa says this, I love that Roseanne has the backbone to stand up for what she believes and thinks and doesn't care who it makes mad in deep old Hollywood.
Diane emailed, Roseanne is a refreshing change. She doesn't care what people think about her support of President Trump. People are growing bored of Democratic whining.
And then Another viewer writes us and says Roseanne was not defending herself. She was stating a fact. She felt we needed a complete change.
We got change.
All right. Meanwhile, it's 7:35 here in New York City, and it's 7:35 in Fairmont, West Virginia, and that is where Todd Pyro is. He's live at DJ's 50s and 60s Diner. And Todd, when you look up what does a quintessential diner look like in Wikipedia, it would look exactly like the place you're at right now.
You nailed it, Steve. I mean, we had dinner here last night, producer Matt and I, and the food as well is quintessential 50s, 60s diner. The decor in the place is all 50s, 60s artists. It is unreal. We're having a great time. But we're here for a reason. We're here in West Virginia because, as you know, tonight, 6:30, big debate on the Fox News Channel. Brett Baier, Martha MacCallum. And it's the Republican primary debate. The three main candidates there in the debate going to be on the stage, Brett and Martha grilling them. And what's interesting about Cheryl, she is a retired police worker, if you will, because she worked in dispatch. She's also a pastor. And she is one of the individuals who was one of those Democrats who says, the Democrat Party left me, I didn't leave them. You're an independent. Why?
I just don't agree with their policies. I find that they are totally against anything that President Trump wants to do, and I am definitely a President Trump supporter.
Now, you said you're undecided as to the primary, so you're going to be watching the debate tonight. And you say the #1 issue to you is jobs. Why?
Because there's a lot of poverty in West Virginia. It saddens me to see that, and I think because of the poverty, we also have a drug problem in West Virginia. And I want to see jobs come, and I see that President Trump is making jobs available to the people in the United States.
And Cheryl, one thing that really got you fired up is the lack of civility in the country, the divisiveness. And you said you looked at the White House Correspondents' Dinner as a prime example of what is not right with our country. Why do you say that?
It breaks my heart to see the meanness that's in people. They're just so full of hatred and bitterness. And the comedian that thought she was to be funny, I feel very sad for her because she wasn't funny at all. She was full of a lot of hatred, and that's what's dividing this country. I want to see this country come back together in unity, being one together. That's what will help us get to where we need to be.
Cheryl, well spoken. Thank you very much. Nick is a developer, and Nick is an independent, so he really doesn't have a horse in this race. Let me ask you about a bigger national issue. What is the big issue facing our nation right now?
I think right now we've got a drug crisis that we need to put forth a unified effort to try to solve. It's contaminating our workforce. It's contaminating our schools. It's ruining our culture. I think at some point we need to take it seriously, and so far we haven't done that.
And specifically here in West Virginia, you find it's a huge issue here as well.
Huge issue in West Virginia. We're starting to use the leadership of West Virginia University and take it seriously. I think we've got a few more steps to go.
Nick, thank you very, very much. Okay, I'm going to go over here to my friend John. I knew that because it's written right there on his shirt. And John is a retired judge and a trooper. And John, when I sat down with you, you said here in this West Virginia Senate race, your words, Joe must go. Why do you say that?
Joe Manchin doesn't reflect the feelings of West Virginia. He's a self-ingratiating individual, runs commercials that he's like the boy next door, and then West Virginians wanted change in Washington, and we supported Donald Trump overwhelmingly in this state, and he's done nothing but play games with that. And other than the Gorsuch vote, I really can't think of anything he's done to help the president.
Well, let me ask you this. You've already voted. You voted for Patrick Morrisey here in the Republican primary because you said he stood up to President Obama. What do you mean by that?
I mean, he brought several several suits in court against the Obama administration. Right. They were trying to kill coal. They were enacting rules that really shouldn't have been enacted, and he had the guts to go in and file suit and actually prevail in a number of cases.
All right. John, thank you very much. That's what the voters here are saying. Thank you, John. Again, it's John because it's on his shirt. We're going to send it back to New York City. Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
All right, Todd, thank you very much. Make sure you're watching tonight at 6:30 Eastern Time. Martha MacCallum and Brett Baier will moderate the West
How do you
Virginia
know those are their names?
Republican.
There's not on their shirt.
Well, that's true. It's actually written down at the bottom of the screen.
Right.
Brett Baier, Martha MacCallum.
Right. Does anyone know what Jillian Milley's doing now?
I think she's doing the news.
Oh.
Is that really my name, though?
Oh,
you guys know for sure?
Oh, yeah. Jillian said at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner, she goes, you could call me Jill.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea.
I said all
it's
of
like
my
a
best
totally
friends.
different name.
You know, Jillian, if you have twins one day, you should name them Jack and Jill. Jack and Jillian.
All of my best friends and most of my family, they call me Jill. So I said, Brian, you can call me Jill.
We're going to
Wow.
change
You can call
it
me
effective
Jill.
now. Thank you, Jill.
There you have
Jill.
it.
And Steve and I call you Jill, too?
Yes, absolutely.
We're friends, too.
Of course. All right, let's get you caught up on some of the headlines we're following. Starting with this, newly released text messages between FBI lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page show the two anti-Trump agents were using personal accounts for work. Last April, Strzok asked Page, quote, "Can I iMessage a work cue?" The next day, he instructed her to clear her personal email before telling her, quote, "Sent something to your email work-related." The two repeatedly expressed concerns about being too tough on Hillary Clinton during her email investigation. How about this? A teenager shamed over her prom dress that some are calling racist. Utah high school student Keziah Dom posting photos wearing a traditional Chinese dress. The 18-year-old sent hundreds of angry comments on Twitter, but she is standing up to those critics, tweeting in part, quote, "I'm simply showing my appreciation to their culture. I'm not deleting my post because I've done nothing but show my love for the culture." Take a look at your screen. This little leaguer is getting all the big laughs. His coach telling him to run as fast as he can, but he likes to do things his own way.
Go, Len! You're almost there!
That's 3-year-old Lennox Salcido running in slow motion to home base in California. He even brushes off Dad when he tries to interfere. And there he makes it.
So cute.
That's your headline.
You know
Did
what?
he see a celebrity doing that or something?
You know what it is? He probably like $6 million man.
Or
right?
Jill,
Remember, Lee
Jill,
Majors.
next time you run that, will you run the Chariots of Fire music under it?
Oh, nice.
Good.
All right, let's run on outside. Janice Dean, the weather machine, has a Foxcast for this Tuesday, and it's going to be a beautiful day in New York City.
It is going to be a beautiful day. People are going to be enjoying the 80-degree temperatures, but with that comes a caveat because we have warm temperatures ahead of a cold front across the plain states. Let's take a look at it. And, you know, it's going to be warm across the eastern half of the country. The western half is where it's going to be cool, and because of that cold front and the jet stream and the warm air in advance of it, we have the potential for severe storms. So there's the past 24 hours, a low pressure ejecting from the Rockies, warm Gulf moisture, and the potential for a severe weather outbreak, including tornadoes, perhaps many tornadoes across the plains, not only today, but into tomorrow. So there's the risk through tonight with that hatched area where we could see the potential for large, very damaging tornadoes. Wednesday's threat is even bigger, extending from the Big Bend of Texas all the way up to the Great Lakes. So we will keep an eye on it. But this could be our biggest severe weather outbreak of the season, certainly maybe in the past couple of years. So we need to watch it. Know what you're going to do if there's a watch or warning in your area.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the heads up.
You got it.
All right, meanwhile, straight ahead, VA hospitals under fire yet again. Photos, look at this, of a dirty room where a veteran was sent for treatment. They've gone viral. That outraged vet joins.
All right, you see these pictures? Disturbing photos going viral for all the wrong reasons. It's a Salt Lake City VA hospital that placed an Army veteran in this room to be treated. Army veteran Christopher Wilson, who took these photos, saw a trash can overflowing with garbage. In fact, his dad did. A sink splattered with dry casting plaster and a counter in complete disarray. As you can see, all this here, there's a soda cup there, too. Wilson's dad shared the photos, tweeting in part, quote, "This was the condition of the room. He was seen in, very unprofessional, unsanitary, and disrespectful. The photos prompted the VA to apologize for the dirty conditions. But is this apology really enough?" Former Army Sergeant Christopher Wilson, who served 2 tours in Iraq, joins us right now. Chris, first off, thanks for your service. Were you expecting better service from the VA, or was it just a dirty room?
I've been dealing with the VA for about 10 years. They're normally pretty clean, but this was pretty disturbing.
So you took those pictures. Why'd you put it out there? Why'd your dad do it?
I just posted them on Facebook at first, and my dad saw them, and he decided to post them. I took them just to show my wife, but...
But he posted it, and obviously President Trump ran on fixing the VA. Does it seem like it's getting better?
It does not. It seems like it's stagnating. Appointment wait times seem to be getting longer. Service seems to be getting worse.
How long is your wait time?
Months at a time. I have a follow-up appointment, but they're first available for the clinic I'm being seen in is February 7th of 2019.
Really? So that's your next appointment?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a 6-month follow-up, but it's a 10-month follow-up.
On a 6-month follow-up. So, Chris, when I see that room, it's discouraging, it's unacceptable, but you think it's also indicative of what you've been seeing. Falling short, long wait times, no improvement over the last few years.
Yeah, and it seems to come from the top down. I don't know if it's a lack of leadership or just bad leadership, but it feels like there's some pretty deep issues with the VA in general.
I also know there's understaffed. There's hundreds of positions still, thousands of positions still open. When you complain or when you bring up the fact that wait times are too long and the rooms are too dirty, what do they say?
You can post it on social media and get thousands of veterans with similar stories. I've gotten pretty much entirely support from veterans who have been thanking me for speaking out against the conditions that they're facing with the VA.
Lastly, Chris, real quick, if I could do something to fix it right now, would you being allowed to, would going to your own physician be something that would fix it right away, allowing the same funding to use private?
Oh, yeah. Choice would be very helpful. It would take the strain off the VA system. It would give veterans more options to get their treatment where they would like to, closer to their homes. People have to drive 150 miles to be seen in the Salt Lake Clinic. It's a mess.
And the word is there's huge pushback on that. To me, it would solve a lot. Chris, thanks for your service. Glad you're speaking up, still serving the country by speaking out. Chris Wilson, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up straight ahead.
Get your gifts. Here with some great gift ideas is Megan Meany with Mega Morning Deals. Good morning, Megan.
Good morning. How are you?
We're good. You're going to start with some earrings?
Yes, and it's great timing because we have Mother's Day coming up, so get these for Mom. These are made of gemstones, and each one comes with a special spiritual quality. It sort of brings forth love or happiness or good fortune. They're from India, these gemstones, right? And they come with a nice little card that explains that, and a great gift box because we don't like to wrap. And look at these beautiful spring colors. They're a drop style. I think Ainsley's wearing a pair. 18 karat gold plated hardware.
Look at that
Gemstone
price.
earrings. Beautiful. Okay. Moving on to our phablet. That's a phone and a tablet in one. It's an Android. Okay. So basically, this could be a phone, or you've got your USB cord here, and you can plug in the keyboard that it comes with, and it becomes a mini laptop.
I love that.
Great visual HD quality for all your favorite
purse, take it on the
games,
plane.
movies, music. It's only $79. And by the way, did I say the earrings were $19?
Unbelievable.
Super inexpensive. This one's 68% off at $79. Now, moving on to our Turkish towels. The quality here is that Turkish towels are super absorbent, super luxurious. These are sold at Bloomies and Neiman's. They're a serious deal today. It's a 6-piece set. They come in all these nice colors for $39. That's a savings of 71% off. They dry really quickly. Great for your guests that are coming in the spring. Okay, we all need sunglasses when the warm weather comes in. All the hot styles from Robert Mark right here. You have the aviator style. You have the metals. You've got the brown tortoise. Very fancy. Usually these goes for like $75, but you're going to get them for $19. That's 75% off today, and they're pulled polarized lenses,
All right.
which is so good for the reflections.
15 seconds.
We love coffee. This is coffee on demand. Fill it up, 12 cups, but you can dispense one at a time. So fun. Everybody knows what a blender does. This one is BPA plastic,
It's a Cuisinart.
no plastic, so it's no chemicals there. Cuisinart, trusted name, right? We love that. And there's more online, so check it out. There's one that heats your coffee at a high temperature, which affects the taste. $49 to $69.
And you pour regular coffee in here, not K-Cup.
You brew up to 12
That's right.
cups. Yeah, and it'll hold it all day with a little gauge and tell you how many cups are left.
So go to our website, foxandfriends.com. Look for the
Mega Morning Deals icon.
And we have more coming up.
And away.
Mother's Day, you got to shop. Hurry.
All right. Meanwhile, speaking of coming up, our final hour of Fox and Friends, check out our green room. We got Condi Rice, the Iceman in the middle, Tom Homan, and 7 years ago today, Rob O'Neill killed Osama bin Laden.